Hi there. How many minutes or seconds before we go on?
I was about to start, so
Okay,
are you about ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Commissioner, great to hear from you. Um, today's date is Thursday, March 3rd. This is the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for joining. The weather has been up and down, a little cold, but we still have sunshine. Um, and this month is Women's History Month, so celebrate that as well. I'm going to call the names of all the commissioners. If you can indicate that you can see and hear me after your name is called. Commissioner Jekowitz.
Here, and I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cox.
Here.
Commissioner Burns.
Here, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce.
Here, I can see and hear you.
And Commissioner Tolliver.
Present, I can hear and see you.
Thank you, folks. We're hoping that this might be, we keep saying that every month, that this might be the last virtual meeting for a little while, and that we might get back to meeting in person. But until then, here's my statement. In 2020, Governor Pritzker signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during the COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that I, as head of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, determined that an in-person meeting of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee are not practical or prudent. I want to make sure that a virtual meeting meets all the conditions of the Open Meetings Act as amended. Therefore, I'm making a determination pursuant to Section 7C2 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of this Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee is not practical or prudent. Similarly, I'm also making a determination pursuant to Section 7C5 that because of the disaster as declared by the governor, it is unfeasible for at least one member of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place for either meeting. Pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Commission on Chicago Landmarks on June 4th, 2020, regarding the chairman's emergency rulemaking powers, I issued emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public commission meetings and provisions for remote public participation effective February 18th, 2022. These rules were posted on the Commission's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's regular Commission meeting is a virtual meeting being simulcast to the general public via live streaming. Commission meetings have been held virtually since May of 2020. Meetings are structured to minimize the chances for technical difficulties. Members of the general public have been encouraged to submit written statements in advance of the meeting, and those have been posted on the Commission's website and are available for viewing during the virtual meeting at www.chicago.gov/ccl. Per the new emergency rules in place as of February 18th, members of the public desiring to speak are no longer required to register ahead of time. Verbal statements by the public for all agenda items will take place on the beginning of the meetings so that all wishing to speak at today's meeting should be signed in to the Zoom meeting at this time. I'll go through the agenda and call out each agenda item one by one. For each agenda item item I call, those members of the public, of the general public wishing to comment on that item should use the raise hand function of the Zoom to indicate that they wish to speak. Members of the public not using a smartphone or a computer and instead phoning into the meeting should press *9 to activate the raise hand function and do the same to deactivate. I or the meeting facilitator will call out the names one by one and unmute that person. Once unmuted, speakers should give their full name and organization, if any, they represent. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Once all members of the public wishing to speak have been given an opportunity to do so, we'll go through the agenda. Applicants and their representatives, as well as aldermen, will be given the opportunity to speak after the staff presentation on a specific project. So I'd like to go through the agenda items to allow for public comment at this time. First is agenda item number 2, the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church building at 729 East Oakwood Boulevard. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? And I'm looking for names.
Chairman,
Hands.
3 hands raised. The first one is Lisa DiChiara.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Chiara, if you go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. It's Lisa DiChiara, Director of Advocacy with Landmarks Illinois. I just have a very brief statement to make, and that is that our organization is in full support of the preliminary landmark designation for Monumental Baptist Church. We gave the congregation a small preservation heritage grant back in 2016 to help with some repair needs. So we're very familiar with the church, with the incredible architectural and historic importance of this place and its very committed congregation. So we are still here, happy to assist in any way we can. We know there's a lot of needs still for this very important building in terms of various repairs and assessments. And again, we're hoping that they will apply to our grant program to assist with some of those needs, as well as that they will apply to the National Trust and Partners for Sacred Places for their upcoming round of Sacred Places grant. And again, we're happy to be of assistance. Thank you to the commission and to the staff for taking this nomination forward. Again, we're in full support. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Who's the second?
Chairman,
Speaker.
second speaker is Max Chavez.
Thank you. Matt, go ahead.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We sure can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, Chairman Wong, members of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. My name is Max Chavez. I am Director of Research and Special Projects at Preservation Chicago. I am just speaking on behalf of our staff in support of the preliminary landmark recommendation for Monumental Baptist Church. It's incredibly rendered in a heavy Romanesque revival detailing. It's the church is really quite remarkable, and it makes really quite a rather imposing first impression when you first see it. Certainly its most impressive feature would have to be its central lantern tower. It's something that was popularized in that era by H.H. Richardson, but it's certainly more of an architectural rarity here in Chicago. And its scale compared to the rest of the building is just so outsized. It really does seem as if it's its own structure entirely. And you know, the overall appearance of the tower and the building, everything together, it's really got to be one of the most striking churches in the city. This should come as no surprise, given it was designed by architects Patton, Fisher, and Miller. Norman S. Patton, Reynolds Fisher, Grant C. Miller. They were a constant union for decades, albeit in different configurations over the years. Patton and Fisher, for example, are the men behind another two of Bronzeville's most notable visual landmarks, the main building and Machinery Hall at IIT. That these two buildings are also officially designated Chicago landmarks further underlines the precedent here that exists to support the landmarking of Monumental Baptist Church. You know, as well, Patton and Miller left their mark across the country as the architects behind over 100 Carnegie libraries around the turn of the century. Patton himself was also at one time the official architect for Chicago Public Schools. And during that time, he designed Lakeview High, at least the first phase of it, Pilsen Community Academy. So these three architects together were incredibly prolific, and they brought a lot of beautiful buildings to life for decades. So, you know, I think it shows that Monumental Baptist Church is certainly a shoo-in for a landmark designation. Overall, we're thrilled to see continued attention paid to the landmarks in Chicago's South and West Sides. These are communities that have been overlooked for a long time, and they deserve the same honors that we've bestowed on other well-represented sites and stories for decades. So we want to thank the Department of Planning and Development for helping this recommendation come to fruition. We also just want to take a quick moment to support and call for the landmark designation of a building very similar to Monumental Baptist, Greater Union Baptist Church at the northeast corner of Damon and Warren. It's also a masterpiece of Romanesque revivalism. The church also came to serve a majority Black congregation in its time, and it was designed by a prominent architect, maybe one of the most crucial in world architecture, William LeBaron Jenney, the father of the skyscraper. So the church's landmarking it's very similar, and it's enthusiastically supported by the congregation. It would make an excellent and natural companion, we feel, to the landmarking of Monumental Baptist Church. So once again, thank you to everybody for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Who's the third speaker?
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, is this Mr. Lee?
Yes. Hi.
Okay.
My name is Cleophas Lee, and I actually am the pastor of the Monumental Baptist Church. I've had the privilege of serving in this capacity now for the last 4 years. And one of the things that struck me upon my appointment to this congregation was the beauty of the facility of the building itself. Much has already been mentioned regarding the architectural beauty, the architectural design of the building. And so what I would like to do is simply speak to, first of all, the historical significance of our congregation. We're currently preparing to celebrate 103 years of being a congregation, which basically has all been in the Bronzeville community, and much of that time at the location of 729 East Oakwood Boulevard. The congregation is very committed to bringing back the beauty of this building, so much so that we've already committed funds and dollars and sweat equity to the refurbishing of and revitalization of the building as well. And we are excited about being a part of the revitalization of the community. And so we're glad to hear that there are entities and organizations such as Landmark Illinois who are inviting us to continue to work with them as we seek to restore this building. And we are definitely looking to partner with Partners for Sacred Places as well as the National Trust. And we've also engaged several individual donors as well to generate the capital that we need to restore this building and bring it back to its original state of beauty, as well as many foundations that we are reaching out to, establishing relationships and seeking to acquire funding assistance that we need for this particular project. And so I just want to say thank you to the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, and we hope that the decision will definitely be made to grant us with this designation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor Lee. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this item?
Chairman, that's all the hands.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. The next item is the item number 3, the citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund application for the Muddy Waters House at 4337 South Lake Park Avenue. And are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item?
We have Lisa DiChiera.
Ms. DiChiera, please.
Hi, everyone. Lisa DiChiera, Director of Advocacy for Landmarks Illinois. We've been working with Chandra Cooper and the Mojo Museum for some years now, and we're so very honored that the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and the city staff has selected the Muddy Waters House as one of the recipients of the Adopt a Landmark grant program. We had a very nice and productive discussion with the older woman earlier this week, with Ed Torres, the architect for the project, and Chandra, and everything is moving along very nicely. Again, from a funding perspective, Landmarks Illinois did give its first grant from our new Timuel Black Fund for Chicago's South Side to the Muddy Waters House, a $2,500 grant in 2020 to help with the ongoing repairs and planning needs. And this Adopt a Landmark grant, along with ours and the National Trust grant, is really going to help advance this project in a very significant way. And so we're very appreciative of the ongoing support. and helping basically bring to light Chandra's endeavor to really make a place that is really going to honor Muddy Waters in a way like no other, and will be so important to the city as well as the overall history of the blues music movement. And speaking of the importance of women's history, since you brought it up, Chairman Wong, earlier, I do want to note that Landmarks Illinois is honoring Commissioners Alicia Ponce and Tiara Hughes and an old friend of your department, Eleanor Gorski, at our upcoming March 10th Preservation Forward event. And we hope you will all join us for that to honor these women and the remarkable contribution they're making to historic preservation now and going forward. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm looking forward to the event. I believe that all of the members of the general public.
Chairman, we have one more speaker, Preservation Chicago.
Okay, please, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. This is Mary Lou Seidel, the Director of Community Engagement for Preservation Chicago. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can, Mary Lou.
Thanks, Ernie. I am speaking on behalf and in support of the Muddy Waters House Adopt a Landmark grant nomination. No place in the city of Chicago except that immediate neighborhood and the people who lived, played, and recorded there tells the story of blues music better than the Muddy Waters House, Chess Records, the different people who've lived in that neighborhood and made it such a vibrant part of our city's history and the world culture. Anytime you go by the Chess Records, when they had tours there, that people came from all over the world to see the places where the blues, the Chicago blues was recorded. And so many of those same people went over to Muddy Waters' house and kept playing after their gigs were over or their recording sessions were over. So that building, that family, and that place and that community tell the story. And we're hopeful that the city will continue its support by approving this Adopt a Landmark grant nomination application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seidel. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in this matter?
Chairman, that's all the hands that were raised.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, therefore, this concludes the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will now go through the agenda. Item number 1 is the approval of the meetings.
I'm sorry, but Ward Miller just raised his hand.
Okay, well, let's go back to Mr. Miller.
Can you hear me, Chairman Wong?
We sure can.
Yeah, my apologies. I was waiting for you to call on item number 4, so a delayed hand raise. But we just want to, again, strongly support the city's Adopt a Landmark funds for the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church of Chicago, located at 2608 North Kedzie, which is part of the Logan Boulevards district. Preservation Chicago and its members worked hard with the Logan Square community organizations, including Logan Square Preservation and the city and its Historic Preservation Division, along with 2 aldermen from 1999 to 2005 to create what would become the Logan Square Boulevards district, extending 2.25 miles and encompassing over 330 buildings. Of the many religious buildings, only one consented to Chicago Landmark designation, the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church of Chicago, known locally as the Minneshirken. At that time, when they were considering the consent form to authorize designation as required by ordinance for religious buildings, they would also join a larger community of residents and stakeholders, which overwhelmingly supported this district nomination. 87% support on a ballot referendum were in favor of the Chicago Landmark District. They consented to designation. And at that time, we promised the congregation that if they consented to landmark designation, that they were a true partner with the community all around them in the city. And in time, this would prove beneficial towards perhaps maintaining this wonderful structure on this grand public square with the Adopt a Landmark program. All of you have helped us to keep and maintain that promise. And over the past 17 years, the Minikshirkin has become much more than just a beautiful church building on Logan Square proper. It has become a cornerstone of our community, a cultural center, a meeting place, and so much more, celebrated and revered to all that pass it. The Adopt a Landmark program has become such an asset to our landmarks and communities across Chicago, and we at Preservation Chicago wanted to share both how impactful this program has been and continues to be, and that we, along with other landmark recipients, are grateful for this tremendous resource and support from our city. So thank you. We also wanted to mention that next Wednesday, March 9th at noon, we are going to announce our Chicago 7 Most Endangered Buildings in Chicago. This is part of a lecture series with the Chicago Architecture Center and in partnership with them. And so many of the buildings that have been part of our Chicago 7 list are now treasured landmarks. So we wanted to invite all of you to this virtual announcement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Is there anybody else raising their hand at this time?
I see Barnaby, who's part of the CCL 4 agenda item.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Hi, my name is Barnaby Waters. I have been working with the church and the city on the restoration of the Minikirkin. And I just wanted to praise the staff and the staff of the Adopt a Landmarks program for being so professional and thorough in helping us get this project through. And it was really truly a partnership that worked very well. The project is finished and it was completed beautifully. And we really appreciate it. I think I speak on behalf of the ownership and the board of the church, as well as myself and the neighborhood. We also really appreciate the ongoing support of Preservation Chicago in getting this building into the landmark district. And we look forward to continuing work on the church in the coming years. And so thank you very much. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Barnaby. Is there anybody else?
I don't see any more hands raised, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go on to the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting of February 3rd, 2022. If you, those were included in your package. And if there's any discussion regarding those minutes, if not, I'd like to request a motion to approve those minutes.
I motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Commissioner Hughes, is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Burns?
Thank you. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver,
Yes.
and I am also yes, the minutes are approved. Second item on the agenda is the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church building in the 4th Ward. This is located at 729 East Oakwood Boulevard. And Mr. Crawford, please, it's your show.
Thank you, Chairman Wong. Commissioners, I'm here to present to you a preliminary landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church building. A powerful work of architecture with layers of culture attached to it. As you heard from Pastor Lee, the congregation and the owner of the building has requested landmark designation. And this is something that we first started talking with them about in 2016. The church stands at 729 East Oakwood Boulevard in the Bronzeville neighborhood within the larger Grand Boulevard community area in the 4th Ward. This section of Oakwood Boulevard is part of the Chicago Park Boulevard Historic District, which we listed in the National Register a few years ago. We recommend that Monumental Baptist meets 4 criteria for Chicago landmark designation. Criterion 1 for heritage, and Criterion 3 for the church's association with civic-minded pastors, as well as other figures associated with the church's robust music program. And I wanted to discuss these first 2 criteria in the following slides. The church traces back to a congregation of Baptist students and faculty that formed in 1868 at the old University of Chicago, shown here. That congregation built the present church between 1899 and 1901 and christened it Memorial Baptist. In addition to worship, Memorial hosted speakers and events that reflected progressive era concerns, including women's suffrage, child poverty, and temperance. Like most congregations, Memorial Baptist failed to integrate as the neighborhood transformed from white to African American during the Great Migration. In November 1925, Memorial closed its doors and put the building up for sale. In 1934, the church entered into its second and current chapter when it was purchased by a Black Baptist congregation and rechristened as Monumental Baptist, which it remains today. During the 20th century, Monumental emerged as one of the largest and most active congregations in Bronzeville. In addition to spirituality, the church served as an influential social, cultural, intellectual, and political force in its members' daily lives. During this time, the congregation was blessed with energetic, civic-minded pastors who advocated for social justice for their congregation specifically and African Americans in general. During his 2-decade tenure, Reverend J.L. Horace used his background as a combat veteran from World War I to demand an end to segregation in the armed services during World War II. And there was Reverend Dr. Morris Harrison Tynes, pastor from 1953 to 63, who maintained Monumental's position as a place of cultural uplift and social justice as the modern civil rights movement picked up steam. For example, he helped organize the prayer pilgrimage for freedom in Washington, D.C. in 1957, an early event in the civil rights movement. He also hosted speakers on African and African American history and current events at Monumental. Tynes was succeeded by Reverend Dr. D.E. King, pastor from 1967 to 86. He also continued the civil rights tradition at Monumental. For example, he helped found Operation Push, led by Jesse Jackson. King invited the board to Monumental for its first meeting, shown here. In addition to these pastoral leaders, there were other figures associated with Monumental's prominent music program, including choir director Arthur Logan, who led the church's Goodwill Spiritual Choir to performances throughout Chicago on the radio, as well as record deals. Beginning in 1968 and spanning over 3 decades, Monumental became well known for its sold-out Christmas production of Handel's Messiah. This performance was led by acclaimed sopranos Hortense Love and Edna Williams, both longtime members of the congregation. The star of the show was internationally famous baritone and actor William Warfield, best known for his starring role in the 1951 musical Showboat, and co-star in the stage production of Porgy and Bess. In addition to heritage and people, we believe that the building also meets Criterion 4 as an outstanding example of the Romanesque revival. With its tall central tower wrapped with an arcade of windows and surrounded by projecting gables, the form of the building is that of a central lantern church, paying homage to Richardson's Trinity Church from 1877 in Boston. Here are a few details of the exterior showing round arches with gauged brick, rusticated stone, and complex roof lines, all character-defining features of the Romanesque. Here's a view of the main worship space with a soaring cloistered dome with lantern windows and a column-free interior. Here's the Sunday school with ample clear-story windows and movable classroom partitions, a very specific type of Sunday school known as an Akron plan. The building was designed by a Chicago architectural firm of Patton, Fisher, and Miller, who we believe meets Criterion 5. The firm, along with the preceding work of Norman Patton on his own, and his successor firm, was noteworthy throughout the Midwest for specializing in the design of institutional and religious buildings. Here are a few Chicago examples, including the Machinery Hall and main building at IIT, which are designated Chicago landmarks. Finally, we believe the building meets Criterion 7 for its distinct visual presence. As a fortress-like Romanesque church surrounded by low-scale residential buildings and the open space of Mandrake Park, Monumental has afforded a prominent visual appearance. Drivers exiting DuSable Lakeshore Drive onto Oakwood Boulevard also encounter a significant view of this building. In addition to the landmark criteria just discussed, we also believe that the building also meets the separate integrity criterion. It possesses remarkable integrity to convey its cultural history and architectural importance, especially considering that for most of its 120-year history, it has served a community that has endured this investment. Changes to the exterior include replacement of the original clay tile roof with asphalt shingle, new entrance doors, and some new windows at the rear. These changes are typical of a building of this age and do not diminish its heritage value. The church is located in the 4th Ward, and Alderman King is aware of the proposal, and Prentice Butler of her staff is on the meeting. As you heard from Pastor Lee, the congregation is in full support of landmark designation. So we recommend to you that the significant features preliminarily be identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building. We have a preliminary recommendation to that effect before you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Does the commission have any questions of Matt at this time? Seeing none. Pastor Lee, is there anything further you'd like to comment on this?
No, I just want to say thank you, Matt, for the awesome presentation, really capturing the embodied spirit and essence of our congregation and our history. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Lee. Does the commission have any questions for Pastor Lee?
Yes.
Commissioner Cox, go ahead, please.
So good afternoon, Pastor Lee. Thank you for the presentation, and I would concur. It's fantastic to see the oral history of the church and the role that's played in the community, and the members and their contributions be brought to light. It makes me, it reminds me of the history that we don't often share about these anchoring institutions, because I imagine there are many churches that could contribute really in that way. So if the landmark status is one way to get the larger community to recognize it, then this will be a great model for others in the faith community. I will say your congregation sits on a very critical property. It now faces a park. It's just a couple of blocks away from the that abandoned Kenwood embankment that I know is being considered as a possible greenway. In other words, there's a lot about the property which is strategically located. I know you also own the remainder of the block, which I think currently serves as a surface parking lot, of which I know that the city has a parcel in the middle of that. I don't know if your congregation has ever thought about maximizing the potential of that surface parking lot for potential development. It might be a mixed-use development. It might be senior housing. It might be something that could generate revenue for the congregation, but also just contribute to the next generation of development in the area. And I wondered if you had any thoughts on this, and if you are interested, maybe eventually one of our neighborhood planning teams could work with you to see what the potential, further potential there might be for the site.
So first of all, yes, thank you, Mr. Cox, Commissioner Cox, for all that you stated, the recognition of the history and, the work that the congregation has done. Regarding the current property that we have, yes, the city, there's a parcel that the city owns that we have been having some conversation with Alderman King's office around acquiring and making that a part of what we already possess. We've had a little bit of chatter regarding some of the possible uses of the properties that we own, because also on the east side of the building, there is a property, a parcel of land that we own as well. And we were seeking also to try and acquire, there's a parcel of land right next to the parcel that we own. And so we were seeking to acquire that parcel. And the purposes of that is we were having some slight conversations around the possibility of utilizing those parcels of land to create some opportunity for development, to create some opportunity of the possible inflow of some additional income. But we haven't had a lot of conversation around it because our number one priority right now is just centered around the restoration of our current facility.
Yeah, well, I think your priorities are on the right thing. But I would encourage you to, well, I think I can have someone, if our preservation team has your contact information, reach out to you about the subsequent phases. Let's hopefully get this designation done and some of the much needed repairs done in the church, and then we can look towards the future. It would be great to work with you and your congregation.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Definitely open to conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. Is there anybody else that has any questions or comments on this?
I see a hand.
Yes, Commissioner Hughes, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to second some of the previous comments to Pastor Lee and his congregation. This is a phenomenal structure. I'm excited that efforts are being taken to preserve it and hopefully repair it and move it forward to have another, long-lasting history into the future. I absolutely love a structure. I've walked around it, driven around it, been all around it, but would, as a South Sider, would love to see the inside and take a tour. Going through the report, I enjoyed seeing all the detailing, the archways, the interior brick. Like, I'm very, very excited about this one and hope in the near future that I can come and see the inside.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Absolutely. Anytime that you would like to come by, we're open to that. And that's actually one of the things we're hoping to be able to do once we get the facility, especially to, the level we would like for it to get to have it open for individuals to be able to come and see the history, to see the architecture. We just believe that it is beautiful. So Commissioner Hughes, anytime that you would like, just let us know, and we'll be there and have you walk you through it.
And Commissioner Hughes, why don't we do that tour together? I very much enjoy that as well.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Might be a party because I might join that too. Actually, I did have a question regarding the roof of that. What is the condition of the roof of the building right now?
The roof is in good condition. We just recently had some work done. So what this is 2022 and 2020, we had the exterior of the building tuck pointed, as well as gutters, new gutters placed on the building, as well as roofing done on the building.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Butler, would you like to make any comments on this?
Absolutely. Just echoing the comments made earlier, we support this project going forward. Pastor Lee, we have had many meetings in his church over the years. Beautiful structure. It's almost like a second home here in the fourth ward. So Pastor Lee, he knows us, and we support any effort that can bring additional resources to the community, to the church. And we're very thankful for this project moving forward, and we look forward to seeing it in the future and what comes of this.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. All right. With no other comments, I would like to call for a request a motion to adopt the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Monumental Baptist Church building. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Commissioner Tolliver. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Hughes.
Commissioner Hughes, seconds. We'll do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, and let's move forward.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3 is the citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund application for the Muddy Waters House, 4339 South Lake Park Avenue, also in the 4th Ward. And Dan Cliver, this is your project.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. At the December 2021 commission meeting, we informed you of 12 projects that DPD conditionally awarded grants to from the 2021 Adopt a Landmark application funding round. You may recall that each of the projects are required to come back to the commission for a vote once their scope and budget are fully developed. One of the applicants, Chandra Cooper, the owner of the Muddy Waters House, has finalized the budget and scope for her project. Ms. Cooper is requesting $250,000 in Adopt a Landmark funds for interior and exterior restoration work totaling approximately $267,650. It should be noted that Ms. Cooper has also recently completed another capital project totaling approximately $50,000 from the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund and Landmarks Illinois for critical Phase 1 repairs to the building. And the proposed Adopt a Landmark project presented here today is just one phase of Ms. Cooper's overall goal to establish the Muddy Waters Original Jam Out or Mojo Museum within the Muddy Waters House. For orientation, the Muddy Waters House is located at 4339 South Lake Park Avenue within the Kenwood community area and the 4th Ward. Constructed in 1891 and designated an individual Chicago landmark in 2021, the building was home to Muddy Waters between 1954 and 1973. Considered by many to be the father of Chicago blues, Muddy Waters' migration from the Mississippi Delta to Chicago in the middle of the 20th century mirrored many African Americans who fled the Jim Crow South. And if you would like to read and listen to more about Muddy Waters, we thought it would be a good idea right now to take a second and put in a plug for the brand new landmark story map tours that are now available on DPD's website, which is chicago.gov/DPD. These multimedia tours are designed to provide more in-depth information on Chicago's landmark heritage, and we've started this effort initially with a story map for the Emmett Till home as well as the Muddy Waters House. And they're pretty cool, very cool. Back to the project. Overall, the scope of work for the Adopt a Landmark project will collectively prepare the building for occupancy and includes various masonry, window, turret, porch, and door work, in addition to work to the publicly accessible interior spaces, including a new AC system. The scope of work was prepared after an assessment of the building was completed by Klein and Hoffman in 2020, with refinements by the entire team in 2021. Pictured before you is a sample of the various condition issues that will be addressed. More specifically, the project includes the removal of paint and patching of the front concrete stair, grinding and repointing of the face brick on the main east facade, cleaning of the paint from the masonry, replacement of the turret funnel, work to the bay window on the second floor, new replacement windows as appropriate, a new east facade, which is the non-primary side, entry door, and repair of the existing main front door, plus the installation of new metal storm doors that will replicate ones that were installed originally by Muddy Waters. The drawings before you show those relevant details on the primary or west elevation, as well as the north elevation. This slide shows those same details from the drawings on the rear or east elevation, as well as the south. And finally, regarding the front storm door detail, before you is a photo of the original metal flamingo storm doors that Muddy Waters had installed, pictured on the left, and a drawing of the replicated versions that will be installed as part of the project. Putting it all together, before you is a rendering of the house after this work is completed. The resolution before you to grant the Adopt a Landmark funds to the applicant includes an Exhibit A, which outlines the scope of work and budget, which I just summarized, and which includes $250,000 in grant funds for the estimated $267,650 project. The resolution and drawings were included in your packets. In addition, Exhibit A includes the main conditions associated with the project. In summary, the conditions are that all work must be submitted to DPD for prior review and approval. The work must be done in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards. The applicant will notify staff of any undocumented conditions. The applicant will enter into an escrow agreement to assure the project is completed and paid for in a timely manner, and that the applicant will provide to DPD the necessary documentation of the project so that staff can also give an informational overview of the project to the commission once completed. Additionally, we wanted to specifically highlight Condition 3, which I will read. Work to be undertaken as part of the Adopt a Landmark project must retain and preserve historic materials and 1970s era alterations made by Muddy Waters to the exterior of the property. When possible, deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, or pictorial evidence. Any replacement features or materials shall be reviewed and approved by Historic Preservation Division staff prior to order and installation. Should you vote to approve the project, the department will then enter into a written agreement with the applicant that will incorporate the resolution. The museum anticipates beginning work this summer. Again, the project is located in the 4th Ward, and Alderman King and/or Prentice Butler is here today with us to speak about the project. In addition, Michael Mitchell, general contractor for the project, Ed Torres, the project architect, and Chandra Cooper, the owner of the property, are also all here to answer any questions that you may have. And I am happy to answer any questions that you may have about the grant agreement process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Does the commission have any questions for Dan at this time? If not, I'd like to call on Ms. Cooper. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
The only thing I would like to add is that we're hoping that we will start the work once we get approved sometime this spring. And just thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Torres. Any comments? Eddie? Or Mr. Mitchell?
No, not at
Hi,
this time.
Commissioner. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. I was on mute. I'm sorry, I was talking, and this is Ed Torres. Commissioner Wong,
Yeah,
did you
go
ask if
ahead.
I had some comments?
Yeah,
Sorry.
did you have any
Yes, yes.
concerns or
I just
comments?
wanted to make some clarification, a couple clarifications. The $50,000 that was granted to this project was from the National Trust of Historic Preservation. I think it was mentioned it was Landmarks Illinois. Landmarks Illinois did give a grant, but the 50,000 was. I just want to make sure that if anybody from the National Trust is listening, that's clarified that money was from them.
Thank you.
No problem. And then the second, I guess the second clarification, yes, Barlow Studio is the architect, will be the architect of record, and will be submitting. We assisted Ms. Cooper on the application with all the drawings and working with the contractor. And we will be submitting all of the permit drawings for review from Landmarks and any, I don't think we're going to need a building codes per se, but anything we'll be doing that. So we'll make sure that it follows the intent of this project to get to the first phase. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ed. Mr. Mitchell, do you have any comments or?
No, no, I do not. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. No.
Okay. Does the commission have any comments or questions of any of these parties?
My hand is
There's
up.
a couple hands up. Yep. Commissioner Cox, go ahead.
Yes, no, thank you again for the presentation. And if it's possible to go back to the rendering of the outside of the building. Yes. I was particularly glad to know that aspects that were contributed by Muddy Waters to the building are going to be restored. So the flamingo screen doors, I think, is again a testament that these historic sites are not ever really finished. They continue to be layered with different periods of history. And I wondered just a bit about the flat frieze at the top that I guess, historically, probably, when the building was built, may have had some kind of ornate cornice. Now, I don't think that was the status when Muddy Waters lived here, but it did raise for me an opportunity, and not necessarily to return it back to any other period of architecture, but many times that could be an amazing opportunity for an artistic interpretation on the site. I don't know if people are familiar with some of the artistic bas relief friezes that are often on buildings. How wonderful it would be to have an artist commission work that speaks to Muddy Waters' contribution to music. So I just want to make sure that the landmark status, doesn't freeze this building in time, but allows for the owner to continue to amplify the presence and significance of this building. And it just felt like that gray area at the top was a canvas waiting to be utilized. And if the team could speak a little bit to that, that would be very helpful.
Eddie, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can, maybe I'll respond first. So this rendering and our drawings reflect one photograph that we have so far that kind of, it's one of our most important photographs that we have that we use about what it looked like in the 60s, 70s, or what Muddy had provided. And that, yes, there is no cornice there in that photograph. However, I think just like the grills of the doors that were originally there and placed at some time, if the commission allows, which I think as a past commissioner, I would allow something that could be applied that could be removable, but that can provide some interpretation of what the house, what the building was, or whatever it may be. But I think I personally would love to do something like that when we get further along on interpreting the museum. But I think it's a great suggestion to go to the next level of the significance of this building. And thank you, Commissioner.
So one follow-up question on that. In order to do the work on the facade repair and the repair of the projected bay window, is the building going to be under scaffolding? Is it going to be scaffolding all the way up, or is it not going to require scaffolding?
I'll let the contractor, Mike can handle that.
I'm sorry, yeah. There'll be scaffolding for about half the building, which will move over as we progress across the building from either north to south or south to north. So yes, it will be under scaffolding.
Okay, only reason why I mentioned that is because obviously scaffolding would be necessary to install any kind of decorative frieze or anything. So there may be some efficiencies that are acquired if the owner, again, conceives of the project, and then perhaps the timing of that might coincide with the scaffolding already being on the building to facilitate implementation. So I just think that I know that our DCASE, our Department of Cultural Affairs, would love to work with the owners to do something interpretive to continue to layer the building with the history and to make it stand out as a cultural site just by the way it looks from the street.
Thank you, Mr. Coxon, Commissioner. There's also, if I recall correctly, the turret also needs some repair or replacement. Is that correct?
The turret was restored.
It was already restored. Okay.
Yeah, the turret was restored, and we just have to replace the top. That was done on that first phase of 56,000 or 50,000, excuse me. But I think the whole building will probably have a lot more than what we show here. Obviously, we're showing what the budget is calling out for. In fact, the grills, the flamingos, that's not necessarily in the budget. We're anticipating somebody will stand up and want to do this for pro bono, who will have an honor of creating these doors for us. So we're looking for that because that's outside of the budget. And then what you mentioned could definitely be something, a program that we would be open to, and architecturally we would work with that.
I think Mr. Jagger would be happy to do that.
Yes.
Mick
Jagger, Eric Clapton, Mick Jagger, either one of them. Let them fight for us.
Can foot the bill for that. Ms. Cooper, you had your hand up, and we'll go to Commissioner Burns afterwards.
Thank you. I think Ed, he pretty much cleared up what I wanted to say. Is like, I think that whole extra piece, we don't have the funding for that now, but down the line we will continue to look for those opportunities.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Commissioner Wong. Speaking of funding, first I just wanted to commend Ms. Cooper and Mr. Torres and anyone else who is on the application team. This is a really well put together application, and there's a lot of integrity to it. So I wanted to acknowledge that. Ms. Cooper, unrelated to this project and the landmark status, I wanted to encourage you to explore funding opportunities with the Artswork Fund, which is a local funder collaborative based on the comment in the application about seeking funding for developing a long-term business model. Artswork Fund could be a great match for that. And I'm super excited about this project to see it forward. Finally, I wanted to acknowledge the historic preservation staff for the first 2 story maps, which I had the pleasure of taking a look at. They were super in-depth, really well researched, and what a great new model for historic preservation engagement with the public in the future. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Hughes, go ahead.
Thank you. This is a very exciting project for me, and I'm excited to see it through and to see everything that you guys are going to do. These bars, actually, this screen that's up right now, this is one of my favorite features. I did have a question about some of the exterior detailing. The current like really short fence that exists around the property now in the front, is that going to remain?
So this is Mike again. Currently, our budget calls for taking that down because it's not in the best of shape and replacing it. Now, whether or not we put up a wrought iron fence, that's not in the budget now, or something that encompasses the adjoining lot, which we hope sometime in the future we'll be able to acquire, and Sandra can talk more about that. But the fence is coming down, and there will be either some new fencing that would, I guess, be decided and paid for with future funding.
Sounds good. And actually, you brought me to my next question about the exterior, which was, known details about the adjoining lot, and if there's any plans for that to serve as kind of an exterior gathering space for the museum. Are you guys in the process of acquiring that?
So we have had several conversations with the Alderwoman's office. We had a conversation again this week. It's hopeful that we will be able to one day obtain the lot. But right now there is nothing on the table for that. We do have a complete proposal of how that would look, because we do really need to extend the space there, but also be able to use that space for a community gathering space as well. So the community can use it as well. Ed has some confidential photos that architectural photos that he has already developed for that space, but we would really like to at some point obtain that space and just keep the flow of the museum going. I think that space, the vacant lot, will be very crucial to what we're doing. And I think overall for the city of Chicago, for visitors and all of that, we really need that vacant spot. So we're in conversations with the Alderwoman, and we will continue having that conversation. And she's been very positive about the space. So we'll keep working on that.
Great. I agree, Ms. Cooper, 100%. I think this home, very similar to the Emmett Till property, is very unique because it does have that open lot next door that enables you to kind of spread the space, the exterior space and gathering space, and kind of catalyze it for the community. And as far as the fencing goes, I really hope that, I don't know if our staff can work with you guys to get a better, quality fence, and something that's obviously compatible with the design, but is going to be welcoming and, not the same sort of quality of the one that's there today, even if it were new. And then the last comment I had or question was about signage and this wall that you have now kind of facing the open lot. Is there any plans for how to address that wall as a potential backdrop? And then signage for this being a museum in the future. Have you guys thought ahead to that as well?
So I can talk about the wall. I think at some point, maybe there could be some type of mural design or something like that on that wall. That would look really nice if we can get that vacant lot with the mural on that wall. In regards to signage, I don't know if Ed would like to talk about the signage. I mean, I think it would have to be something in regards to some type of plaque or some type of standing signage that we can work with the city with. Ed?
Yeah, I think we can have appropriate wayfinding. We have not spent much effort on that yet. We focus on the adaptive landmark and what's going to be in the budget at this time. But we do have, as mentioned, we have some renderings of of a possible mural that can go along that wall of Muddy Waters with his guitar, iconic image of him on that wall. And then if we do get that lot eventually, having that as a pro community centric space, public space, not just for queuing and not for pressure relief of the museum, but also as a gathering for the community, because it's outside, events, meetings, whatever, music, of course. So that's really that's kind of the vision of the whole thing, of the sort of, we'll call it the mini campus of the Mojo Museum. But yes, we'll have to think about that and overall comprehensive plan on wayfinding, circulation, even transportation, buses, all those things. We'll have to look as we move further on next phases of this.
And what's great is that we are really working with One Stop, and so that huge parking lot that they have, they are willing to allow us to use that for parking. So I don't foresee traffic jams or anything like that disturbing the day-to-day with the residents on that street, because we have that huge parking lot. And of course, we'll have limited hours. Also, like the Emmett Till building, they had 2 vacant lots that they were given to give them that campus feel. And so again, we want to work really hard to try to get that vacant lot.
Yes, I agree with all of your sentiments, and I'm looking forward to following the project and seeing its progress over time. So thank you guys so much. I'm in full 100% support of your efforts and what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Cox, you had your hand up. Commissioner Cox?
Sorry about that. Just in the spirit of information sharing that I think Commissioner Burns brought up, there are a number of national foundations who I think would have significant interest in the work that you're doing. One that comes to mind is the Mellon Foundation out of New York that has a new program. They're calling it Humanities in Place. And they give out grants up from $150,000 to $3.5 million. I think a number of institutions in Chicago have already received this new grant. So it would be, I'd be happy to make the connection. The program director is Justin Garrett Moore. So that's one possibility. As sounds like there are a lot of things that you want to do that have not yet found the funding source. So that could be helpful. And then I would just encourage you to make an appointment with planning and design staff. Lisa Washington leads this portion of the city so that the planning department at all times has a full view of what you're trying to do and where we can help move things and expedite things. I think we'll be happy to do that. So I just want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of the reality that we see this as a priority project. And so we want to see all the components that you've described fully funded and assist where we can to get it implemented.
Thank you so much for that, Commissioner Cox. I just wanted to add one last thing, that we just this week were invited to do a really special program with only 3 organizations from across the country, with the National Trust and also the African American Smithsonian Museum out in DC. And so they really want to work with us to make sure that our board, our funding, our projects, and all of that is together. So we'll be spending 3 days with them, a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, with them really trying to work with us and really hone in on what we have, because they feel as though we have a very special project. Mind you, the other organizations that are coming forth, they're already existed. They already have a building, they're all of that. But because of our proposal and what we are trying to do, and also getting this $250,000 grant from you guys, they really take our project very serious. So thank you again, and we will look into those other funding options you mentioned.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Commissioner Ponce.
I wanted to quickly just share in the excitement and point out this fabulous moment in time and congratulate everyone involved in the project. And I'm personally looking forward to walking through one day with my kids and just taking it all in. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. Mr. Butler, I'd like to give you the last opportunity to say something if you like.
Absolutely. Here in the Fourth Ward, we seem to be blessed with a myriad of different projects that are happening. preserving the history and the culture of our community. So Alderman King is very supportive of this project. Ms. Cooper has done a lot of hard work over the years to make sure this comes to fruition. So we're excited about this going forward. We look forward to seeing the end result.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. If there are no other comments or questions of any of the parties.
Chairman Wong, I do
Yes.
have one other comment.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I want to piggyback on the wayfinding question that that Commissioner Hughes brought up. And while it's beyond the scope of this project, I think there could be a really interesting opportunity for wayfinding that is connected to thematically wayfinding at the Tillman home, as well as the Pullman Porter Museum and some of the other sites that we as a commission have talked about the opportunity to create potentially historic African-American history trail on the South Side. And so as the project team under Ms. Cooper's leadership is thinking about beyond this project, the potential to connect with other sites and create a destination that is a whole day versus a few hours or half a day, and thinking about visual and conceptual opportunities for wayfinding could be really exciting. And it might even be worthwhile to pause a little bit on a wayfinding system for this site and spend some time planning with other sites that could come together, that could cost share and present a unifying visual and thematic concepts. I'm really excited to see what you all might do with this.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Okay. With nothing further, I would like to request a motion to approve a resolution for a citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund grant for the Muddy Waters House. Is there a motion?
So moved. Commissioner Jacobs.
Commissioner Jacobs. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. I'll go through the roll call. Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
With flying colors.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes.
And I am a yes also. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, folks. And we look forward to the progress. Item number 4 is the citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund, which is informational on the completed project, the Logan Square Boulevards District. This is the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church of Chicago at 2608 North Kedzie Avenue in the 35th Ward. There's no resolution. This is informational only. And Mr. Kleiber, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay again?
We sure can. Thank you.
Thanks, commissioners. I'm here today with an informational overview of a completed Adopt a Landmark project. At the commission meeting in March of 2021, a year ago, you approved an Adopt a Landmark project awarded by DPD from the 2019 application round for the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church of Chicago. The owner was awarded $250,000 in Adopt a Landmark funds for an exterior envelope restoration project totaling approximately $737,000, and the project is now complete. For orientation, Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church is located at 2608 North Kedzie Avenue within the Logan Square Boulevard's Landmark District within the Logan Square Community Area and 35th Ward. Completed between 1908 and 1912, the church was originally called Christ Norwegian Lutheran Church. In 1934, it was renamed the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church, or simply Minikirken. Architecturally, Minikirken exemplifies neighborhood-scaled ecclesiastical architecture executed in the Gothic Revival style. The red brick and limestone-clad building displays characteristic features of the style, including the pointed arch windows and entrance portal. In 2019, to identify sources of water infiltration observed on the church interior, Norwegian Lutheran's congregation commissioned Integrity Structural Illinois to prepare an exterior wall condition assessment report. The report identified and illustrated adverse envelope conditions, including masonry displacement, open mortar joints, distressed limestone, and poorly detailed flashing. To address these problems, the Adopt a Landmark project completed critical exterior restoration work at 2 areas of the building. 1, the east or front facade of the building from grade to the base of the slate-clad spire, and 2, the side, and rear elevations of the tower above the roof line and below the spire. In addition, a relatively small amount of interior work was completed to access and repair various corroded steel beams. These photographs highlight an example of masonry displacement before the work on the upper left, as well as work to remedy that situation on the upper right, and other front facade masonry work in progress below. Here, the scope included removal of face brick, repair of backup brick, and the installation of salvaged and historic brick harvested from the side elevations. These photographs highlight the copper and roofing work completed to also address water infiltration, including new slate as appropriate, new flashing, and water management elements. Before you is the before and after budget for the project, including detail on all of the major categories of work. Highlights from the budget include that in the end, the total project costs were just a little bit over the budget estimate. The estimate was $725,000 and the project came in at approximately $737,000. This was due to masonry steel work, which was higher in cost than anticipated, as well as the roof and copper work, but the project budget included an adequate contingency and south wall brick harvesting was not necessary, so these higher costs were able to be accommodated. Finally, here is a very recent photo of the main front facade of the church showing the completed work with newly installed brick, cleaned limestone, new copper, new slate, and other elements. With me today to answer any questions are members of the project team, which includes Barnaby Waters of Waters Design, as well as Matt Nygaard from the Norwegian Lutheran Memorial Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Does the commission have any questions for Dan or the team? I have a really quick question. In regard to, this was a tremendous amount of work. What was the schedule like on this and getting all of this work done? How long did this take? Yep.
Started work, and Barnaby can correct me if I'm wrong, but started work in approximately June of last year. Was substantially completed by, I would say, later this year, November, with a few odds and ends. But Barnaby, I believe, is still on the call, and he can correct me if that is way off.
Great. No, that's wonderful to hear. It's a great project to get done during the pandemic. And,
there's a fair amount of lead time just to get them, ready and, go through there is some paperwork, of course, involved, and, getting the project funds into an escrow account. So a lot of boring behind the scenes stuff necessary to get these going.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thanks so much for everything. This has really been fantastic to see the work and funding being utilized in a manner that is really exciting for not only the church, but the community, surrounding community as well. If there are no other questions or comments regarding this, I'd like to go on to the next item, which is thank you, Dan, the Permanent Review Committee reports. And this is the report on the project reviewed on February 3rd. And Commissioner Jekowitz, you'd like to make your statement.
Thank you, Chairman. The Permanent Review Committee reviewed 4 projects at its February 3rd, 2022 meeting. All 4 projects were approved with conditions, and the report summarizing the scope of the proposed projects and the committee's decisions was included in your packets. This report is for your information and for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Emily, do you have the report?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. For the month of February, staff reviewed 113 permit applications. A total of 129 reviews were performed by staff, and the average number of days to issue approval or corrections was 4 days.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. Are there any questions of Emily or Commissioner Jekowitz? Having none, the last item on the agenda is announcement. that the program committee's review of suggestions received from the public for the Chicago landmark designation will be held on Tuesday, March 29th at 4 p.m. It will be virtual, so see chicago.gov/CCL for the link for live streaming. In the event that a gubernatorial disaster declaration is no longer in effect on March 29th, thereby disallowing remote participation in public meetings, attendance at this meeting will change from remote to in-person only. If this happens, location information will be provided on the commission on Chicago Landmarks website at chicago.gov/CCL. Deadline for submissions is Friday, March 18th at 4 p.m. All suggestions must be submitted on a suggestion form available at Chicago Landmarks website, chicago.gov/DPD. With that, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, Commissioner Hughes, second.
Second, Commissioner Jacobowicz.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Nobody opposed, I take it. And Commissioner Jacobowicz, when's the permit review meeting starting?
Let's start at 2:15.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, everybody, and
Bye.
we look forward to next month.